It is Halloween season, and the MCU for years has been promising us a horror film. Whether that's the phrasing they use for films like Doctor Strange and its sequel, saying this is going to be the true horror film, getting directors like Scott Derrickson and Sam Raimi, well, maybe those projects did not connect with me on a horror level, but let me just say right now, they made their first true horror film within the MCU, and that is the film Werewolf by Night, which is a 50-minute special that they did in honor of Halloween, in honor of some of the more obscure characters within the MCU. And let me just say it right now, this film's pretty kick-ass. Thank you for watching The Beniverse. My name is Ben Freeman, and today I am reviewing the film Werewolf by Night. So, Werewolf by Night, this is a relatively obscure installment within the MCU. This is neither a movie nor is it a TV show. It's kind of this 50-minute special one-off, whatever you want to call it. This is based on the comic book character Werewolf by Night. This brings in a lot of obscure monster characters within the MCU. These are characters that don't really get to see the light of day. Maybe they had some run in the 70s, 80s, maybe a few of them pop up here and there now. But it's not like you have any of the mainstream characters. I mean, hell, we don't even have a character like Blade leading this film. This is a very obscure cast, and it is a really weird installment within the MCU. It is directed by a guy you might know named Michael Giacchino. The reason you might know that name is Giacchino is a composer. He's composed such films as Up, Rogue One, a bunch of the Pixar films. He's even done a lot of the Marvel films, including Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man film and its sequels. He has been a composer, and he's been a much beloved composer for over 2 decades. And he stepped into the directing chair for Werewolf by Night. This is his first directorial installment. This is a film that he also did the music for, and this is also a film that pays heavy homage to the 1930s Universal monster films. Think Dracula, think Frankenstein, think the Wolfman. This is what this film is playing in, and this is what this film is riffing on for a lot of it. And this film stars Lauria Donnelly and Gail Garcia Bernal. They are 2 monster hunters who are called alongside with a bunch of other monster hunters. After the quote-unquote leader of the monster hunters dies, he leaves them this artifact that basically whoever kills the monster that is running around this spooky mansion, they will be able to get this artifact. They will be the de facto monster hunter leader. Gail Garcia Bernal is an actor that I have liked for a long time. The first time I was aware of him was a film called Rosewater, which was directed by Jon Stewart. I think he's a really good actor. And he also did the voice of Hector in the movie Coco. I really like this guy, and I think he's a really good lead in this film. He understands exactly what he needs to do in this film. Is this a particularly inspired performance? Is this a particularly hard performance to pull off? I wouldn't call it that, but I think he knows exactly what tones to hit. He plays that level of creepiness really well, and he's definitely doing his homage to like a Vincent Price. And in that way, I think his performance really works. But the person who really impressed me in this film was Laura Donnelly, who I think is legitimately giving a great performance as her character Elsa. They add a lot of depth to this character. They add a lot of layers and unexpected twists and turns with her, and I think she does it so well, and her action choreography is just stunning throughout this film. And that's where I really need to start getting into my praise of this film. What I really loved about this film, and just I will say straight up the word loved, is Michael Giacchino's direction within this film. This is unlike anything we've seen within the MCU. This is shot almost basically all in black and white, which some beautiful cinematography work done by Zoe Wright. This film it looks stunning. It has this visual flair to it. It just has an aesthetic that I think the MCU has been missing, quite honestly, recently. And I've talked about that in other reviews that I've done. This film feels like it is a distinct style. It feels like a one-off. It feels kind of like a comic book come to life. And it's not really something that fits in with the rest of the MCU. You could watch this film completely standalone, having never seen any of the MCU installments. You would not be lost. You wouldn't be confused. It stands completely on its own, and that's where it worked for me. It was just this one fun spin-off that maybe will have consequences later in the MCU. Maybe we see these characters pop up in later installments, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It feels like a one-off. Werewolves by Night is truly, by definition, a one-off. It tells its own story. It's completely disconnected. It does its own thing, and that's what I really appreciated about this. And like I said, Michael Giacchino's direction is really good. He definitely goes for the heavy-handed throwback to the 1930s. In particular, obviously, the Wolfman is a big inspiration, but you also see other inspiration. For instance, the house that they're in looks very reminiscent to Dracula, the 1933 version. There's a lot of things like that going on throughout, where it is clear that he grew up with these types of films and he is now paying heavy-handed, maybe, but an homage to it. And also, one of the things that I really appreciate from this film, and one that I think is going to make it quite different within the MCU, this film's violent. This film, I would have to gather, is rated R. There is some nasty kills in this movie. There is some gruesome stuff in this movie. I'm not going to say like it is the scariest thing. I think if you have a kid that is over the age of probably 10, they can handle this film pretty well. But this is definitely violent. This is definitely scary. This has some really scary imageries in it. This is not a quote unquote, this is a horror film. No, this is legitimately a horror film. This has a lot of spooky, creepy elements. It is a monster horror film. And that's what I really appreciate about it. It is a genre. And that's what I think the MCU has been missing for so long. A lot of these films just feel the exact same. We're like 32 installments with movies or something ridiculous like that. And I would venture that probably 26 really feel distinctly the same. This one does not. This doesn't feel like an MCU film. You could remove the MCU banner from this film and you would just think it's a new horror film. And that's really cool. I like that they're willing to take that chance. I wish they would extend that chance more. I wish they wouldn't just do this with a really random, obscure spin-off. While I do like that they did it, I wish that we would see more of this from their more mainstream projects or even their TV shows, which I think are really diluting the brand. But if this is the direction Marvel is starting to take some of their more obscure, more weirder characters, and this is the directorial direction that directors are feeling able that they can take, I think this was going to be a really good example of what the MCU can be and how storytelling is going to stay alive within it. If we get more projects that just feel more of the same, the MCU will begin to feel stale. This brings a fresh life to the MCU. This is a breath of fresh air within it, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm not going to say this is going to be your favorite installment within this franchise. I don't think it is for a lot of people. I found myself enjoying the film. The story is not particularly complicated. At times, I even thought it was dull. But it really makes up for it in the action. This is where the film really shines, is some of those horror action set pieces. There are other characters that kind of come in and out that don't really have development. MCU continues to have the problem where the villain does not really work in any meaningful way. So this does have some of the issues that I have continued to criticize the MCU about. But like I said, again, just to reiterate it one last point, it does feel new. It does feel like they're willing to take a chance. This is unlike anything else that you've seen within this genre. This is truly its own thing, and I appreciated that of it. This is not going to be a project for everyone. Do not let little kids see this movie because they will be scared. But overall, Werewolf by Night is a big recommendation for me. I am giving it 3 out of 4 stars. Thank you for watching this review. If you like this review, make sure to like and subscribe to the Beniverse. I have much more coming out this week, including reviews for other horror films. I have some podcasts coming up, and I have some Oscar predictions coming out. I've been a little behind due to just being out of town for a wedding, but I am back, and I'm coming in full swing for the month of October and the Halloween season. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.